Bernie Madoff understood a fundamental truth about human psychology that most people learn the hard way. Now, we rarely question the things that we desperately want to be true. Hi, I'm Graceson Ellison, and welcome to Velvet Bones, where every fortune has a backstory. Every scandal leaves a lesson to be learned. And appearances, well, they're very rarely what they appear. Now, what's always fascinated me has been the illusion of success. A tailor smoothing the shoulders of a flawless luxury suit. The door of a private jet shutting closed from the inside. Flashbulbs reflecting off of a celebrity walking the red carpet. Shadows stretching across a massive corporate boardroom. And an executive confidently ringing the stock exchange bell. But somewhere along the way, we started confusing visibility with credibility. A celebrity suddenly becomes a financial expert. A rapper starts teaching people how to build wealth. An athlete becomes a business philosopher. An executive becomes the smartest person in every room simply because, well, he's the executive. It's funny how that works. We see the tailored suit and assume discipline. We see the mansion and assume intelligence. We see the private jets and assume success. We see the money and assume character. Now, sometimes we're absolutely right because wealth isn't always an illusion. Sometimes we're looking at a master magician, someone who knows exactly how badly we want to believe the illusion. Which brings me to Bernie Madoff. Now, chances are you've heard this story more times than you care to remember. The biggest Ponzi scheme in American history, billions of dollars, thousands of victims, and prison. Now, we already know all of that, but that's never really been the question that interested me the most. The question I keep coming back to is, where did he get the unmitigated gall to think he could actually pull this off? Better yet, what made Bernie Madoff think that he wouldn't get caught? Because people don't just wake up one morning and decide to become Bernie Madoff. Something happened long before the headlines, long before the billions, long before Wall Street. Bernie Madoff understood a fundamental truth about human psychology that most people learn the hard way. Now, we rarely question the things that we desperately want to be true. Bernie didn't hook people by promising impossible overnight riches. That's what cheap scammers do. Bernie hooked people with consistency, a steady, untouchable 10 to 15 to 20% return year after year, rain or shine. In a volatile world, absolute consistency, well, it looks like safety. But in reality, consistency without variance doesn't exist in nature. And it certainly doesn't exist in the markets. So Bernie wasn't just selling an investment. He was selling entries into an exclusive club of successful people, and his victims, well, they were blinded by his deceit and his greed and the prestige of the club that they forgot to look at the books. So the takeaway here isn't just don't trust a scammer. The takeaway is to look at your own life, your own circles, and your own environment, and then ask yourself, what am I letting slide right now? Simply because the lie feels safer than the truth. So let's look a little closer at how that lie actually began. So to understand how an illusion this massive is built, well, you have to realize it doesn't start with a multi-billion-dollar grand design. It just doesn't. It starts with a single tiny compromise, a small shortcut that works, which teaches the brain that shortcuts are viable. So let's go back to Queens, New York, 1960. Bernie Madoff is 22 years old. He doesn't come from old Wall Street money, y'all. His father was a plumber who tried his hand at playing the stock market and failed, leaving the family in deep debt. So Bernie watched that failure, and right then he made a silent vow that he would never let the world see him lose. Never. So he registers his own investment firm with $5,000 that he saved from working as a backyard sprinkler installer and a part-time lifeguard. $5,000, guys. Now, a standard true crime documentary will probably tell you that Bernie was a monster from day one. But the truth is much, much more dangerous. Bernie was actually brilliant. Now, this is up for discussion. I don't think that Bernie started out as a fraud. I think he started out as an innovator. And in the 1960s and 70s, the New York Stock Exchange was an old boys club. So if you wanted to buy stock, you had to do it face to face on the trading floor. And the big firms charged massive fees. So Bernie looked at the system and saw a massive vulnerability. It was too slow, so he and his brother, Peter, became pioneers, so to speak, in computer automation. They built electronic trading systems that bypassed the floor entirely, making trades in a fraction of the time. So that technology, that very thing Bernie helped build, well, it eventually became the foundation for the modern NASDAQ exchange. So think about the psychology shift that happens inside a man when he realizes that he is smarter than the entire establishment. So when you bypass the old gatekeepers legally, your brain begins to believe that the rules simply don't apply to you. And that's the second major takeaway I want you to remember. The most dangerous deception always grows out of a legitimate competence of some sort. So people rarely get scammed by an idiot. They get scammed by someone who has proven real world capability, because that capability builds an armor of trust. And once that armor is on, well, nobody thinks to look for the knife behind their backs. So by the late 1980s, Bernie's legitimate business was wildly successful. He's making millions, but he starts managing private money on the side for close friends, family, and wealthy country club members. And then the market hits a snag, and it always does. So we don't know the exact day, we don't know the exact trade, but somewhere in the early 90s, the market took a downturn, and Bernie's legendary consistent returns weren't so consistent. So then Bernie had two choices. Choice A, walk into the room like a man, look his wealthy clients in the eye and say, the market is down. We took a loss this quarter. It's what every honest broker does. But remember, Bernie's silent vow, never let them see you lose. To Bernie, admitting a loss meant breaking the illusion of his absolute success. So he chose choice B. He fabricated the numbers on the statements for that quarter. So he's thinking, well, let's just bridge the gap just to buy some time until the market bounced back. Now let that sink in. So Bernie probably told himself it was temporary, a short-term loan from the future, if you will. But here is what he didn't realize, and what so many ambitious people fail to realize. Well, until it's too late, that is. When you borrow from a lie to protect your reputation, the interest rate is your soul, and the market never lets you pay it back. So let's look at the moment the temporary fix became a permanent trap. So once you commit to a lie to protect yourself, your reputation, a strange psychological shift happens. So you stop trying to fix the problem and you start to weaponize the illusion. So you remember at the beginning of the episode where I said my friend told me, never show nobody your money. Either they'll take some or they'll ask for some. So Bernie took that piece of street wisdom and essentially, well, he turned it on its ear. He realized, well, if you flaunt your money, people, they get envious, suspicious, or even demanding. But if you hide your money, if you make your wealth quiet, mysterious, and incredibly hard to access, people, well, they will claw all over each other to get to your exclusive club. Actually, guys, Bernie didn't market this fund. He didn't take out ads. In fact, we were told that if you walked up to Bernie Madoff in the 1990s and wanted to invest your money with him, his standard response would be to look you up and down and say, no, I'm not taking on any new investors right now. It's the ultimate psychological trap, which brings us to the next major takeaway. Human beings do not value what is cheap, and they do not value what is desperate. They value what excludes them. So by saying no, essentially, Bernie triggered an algorithmic panic in the minds of the ultra wealthy. So to a billionaire, a country club member, or a massive charitable foundation, being told that they can't get into a room, well, it's an insult to their ego. So they didn't just want his 10, 15, 20% return. They wanted the bragging rights of being in an exclusive club, and they began essentially begging Bernie to take their money, their life savings, paying middlemen, secret fees, and then even pulled favors just to get Bernie to take their money. And because they had to fight so hard to get in, they simply did not ask questions that might get them kicked out. So think about how deeply applicable that is to our daily lives. Think about the businesses you buy from, the people you date, or the circles you try so hard to impress. And then look at yourself. Are you chasing this simply because it keeps pulling away from you? So when someone builds an aura of an artificial scarcity around themselves, our instinct is to chase harder. It's like someone trying to date someone. The chase makes it all more interesting. So the true value, though, doesn't need to play hide and seek. Real competence welcomes inspection. And remember, fake competence demands worship. So for over 15 years, the money poured in faster than anyone could keep track of. But remember how a Ponzi scheme actually works. Bernie wasn't investing a single dime. He was taking the money from investor A and paying back returns to investor C, all to keep the machine running. So you need a constant, endless influx of new money. So that means you can never stop. You can never take a vacation from lying. And this is where the final heaviest lesson lands. We live in a culture that tells us to win at any cost. We're told that as long as we get the luxury house, the luxury suit, the private jet, and the corporate boardroom, well, it doesn't matter how we got across the finish line. But Bernie Madoff is the mathematical proof that a crown bought with a lie is actually just a noose. Every single morning for nearly 2 decades, I'm betting, Bernie woke up knowing that one bad day in the market, one major client asking for all of their money back at once, or one routine regulatory check would simply destroy his family, his name, his reputation, and his freedom. So he was a multi-billionaire, essentially, who is secretly a prisoner to his own calendar. He couldn't sleep, he couldn't relax, and probably couldn't take a true mental break. The illusion of success is simply a full-time job. And the tragedy is, by the time you realize how exhausting it is to maintain, well, you've already forgotten how to live an authentic life. So let's look at the day the calendar finally caught up with Bernie. So it's December 2008. The illusion ran out of time. The global economy was melting down. Lehman Brothers fell. The housing market crashed. And then suddenly Bernie's wealthy investors, well, they panicked. They didn't want to look at their exclusive, consistent statements. Nobody wanted to see those statements anymore. They needed their money. They needed their cash. So they asked to withdraw a massive, unprecedented $7 billion all at once. There was only a few $100 million left in a standard Chase account. So on December 10th, Bernie sat down with his 2 sons in his apartment and probably told them the truth. He told them that his entire legacy, career, reputation was a big lie. And then the next morning, federal agents knocked on his door, and the master magician was stripped of everything: his reputation, his prestige, and his freedom. So Bernie was sentenced to 150 years, where he eventually died. But you know, the real tragedy wasn't his prison sentence. The real tragedy was the victims, the fallout, and his legacy was completely erased. Assets seized, thousands of innocent people lost their life savings, charities closed their doors, and the worst of all, the shame was so heavy that his eldest son took his own life. And then we know his other son has died as well. So look at the wreckage of this entire empire. Something very few people understand until they hit rock bottom. So when you build your life on an illusion, you aren't just putting your neck on the line. You're gambling with the souls of people that trust you, and people that paid you, and people that love you. So we began this journey talking about street wisdom. I'll say it again. Never show nobody your money. Either they'll take some or they'll ask for some. So we saw how Bernie took that wisdom. He hid his fake wealth behind an iron curtain. That's all I'm saying. An iron curtain of exclusivity, and then made people beg to give them everything they had. But the final, most powerful lesson of the Bernie Madoff story, well, you know, it isn't about money or finances at all. The world operates on a very strict law of, let's call it thermodynamics, the law of sowing and reaping. Eventually, everything you do comes to the light, and you might outsmart the SEC, You might even outsmart billionaires and Wall Street, but you will never outsmart the truth. Every single shortcut you take, every tiny compromise that we as people make, whether it's in our families, our relationships, at work, it all carries interest. And when the bill finally comes due, it always demands payment in full, right when you can least afford to pay it. So all we're saying is that true success isn't defined by how high you can build a gilded tower while praying the wind doesn't blow. True success is building something so honest, so deep, and so structurally sound that you can sleep like a baby at night with the windows wide open and the lights glaring if you wanted, and be perfectly fine. So thanks again for joining us here on Velvet Bones. And if you haven't already, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you will be notified every single time we post a video. Now, we're decoding these high stakes psychological cases every single week, and we love you to be a part of our family. And as always, thank you so much, and we will see you on the next video.